I want to focus today on the importance of knowing your purpose and then taking steps to fulfill that purpose. You have a divine destiny. You're not an accident. God saw you before you were ever even born. And He's put gifts and talents in you. He's given you ideas and creativity. There's something that you can excel at. You have all this potential on the inside. But it's not going to do you any good unless you start tapping into it. And too many people today are not really fulfilled. They're just going to work, trying to make a living, stuck in a job they don't even like, not pursuing the dreams and desires that God's put in their heart. And as long as we're not moving toward our God-given destiny, there will always be a sense of dissatisfaction on the inside. And I can't think of anything more tragic than to come to the end of your life and realize that you have not become all God created you to be. You just lived an average, mediocre life. You got by, but you didn't have any passion. You didn't have any enthusiasm. You had all this untapped potential on the inside. I heard somebody say, the wealthiest place on earth is not in the oil fields over in the Middle East. It's not in the gold and diamond mines in South Africa. The wealthiest place on earth is in the cemeteries. Because buried in those graves are all kinds of dreams and desires that will never be fulfilled. There are books that will never be written, businesses that will never be started, ministries that will never see the light of day. The incredible power of potential is lying in those graves. And I want you to feel this sense of destiny today. Friends, you have an assignment. There is something God wants you to accomplish, and if you don't get it done, not only are you not going to be fulfilled, but this world is not going to be near as bright a place as it could be. And the reason some people are not happy, the reason they're not living with enthusiasm, is because they're not really in their purpose. Understand, there is a gift, a treasure on the inside of you, but you got to do your part to get it out. And I want to challenge you today to be more determined than ever that you're going to get focused and start taking steps toward the dreams and desires that God's put in your heart. Our goal should be we're going to live life to the full, pursuing our passions, pursuing our dreams, and then when it comes our time to go, we're going to go empty. We're not going to have any potential left in us. We're not going to have to bury any of our treasures. We're going to have spent our life well. Well, you say, Joel, how do I really know my purpose? How do I really get into my divine destiny? It's not complicated. Your purpose has to do with what excites you. What are you passionate about? What do you really love doing? Your purpose will be a part of the dreams and the desires that are in your heart. It'll be a part of your very nature. See, God made you. He's the one that put those desires in you, so it'll be something that you like doing. For instance, if you really love children, then your purpose will probably be something that has to do with children. Teaching them, coaching them, mentoring them. I know people that are just extremely helpful people. They're so compassionate and caring. Well, their purpose will probably fall into a social field or maybe even a medical field. A doctor, a nurse, a caregiver, a counselor. What I'm saying is that your purpose will always follow after what you are passionate about. I know from the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I was always fascinated with television production. I loved the cameras and editing and watching people make movies. That just excited me. And from the time I was a young man, I would come down to the church on the weekends. We had some little industrial cameras, and I'd spend all day Saturday just playing with the television equipment. I didn't know how to run it. I'd just turn it on and off and unplug it, plug it back in, coil the cables, get it ready for Sunday. But I was passionate about it. It's what came naturally. And when I got old enough to run the camera in the services, maybe 13 or 14, I was very good at it. In fact, I was one of the best cameramen that we had. But it wasn't hard for me. It was natural to me. I didn't have to work at it. It was like a hobby. I loved doing it. See, that was all a part of my purpose. That was hardwired into me by the Creator of the universe. And I just kept following my passions. I went to college and studied it for a year, and came back home and started the television ministry. And even today, being on the other side of the cameras, I can see how God was guiding and directing my steps. But some of you go to work every day and you don't really enjoy it. You don't like the field that you're in. You get up in the morning dreading it. You can't stand the traffic. You don't enjoy the people. Listen, you need to re-examine things. You are not meant to live a miserable and unfulfilled life. And you need to make sure that you're in a field that's a part of your purpose. Don't go 25 years doing something you don't like and just stay there because you're comfortable and you don't want to rock the boat. No, get into your divine destiny. We should love what we're doing. We should go to work every day with enthusiasm, passionate about what we do. And I'm not saying we don't have to work hard, and there are not going to be some frustrating days and people we don't want to deal with. That's all a part of it. But ultimately, we should enjoy what we're doing. When you get home at night, you should feel rewarded, like you've accomplished something, like you've made the world a better place. And really, when you get into your purpose, work is not even going to be like work to you. It's going to be like a hobby, and on top of that, you'll get paid for it. I heard somebody say, do what you love doing, and the money will always follow. And I believe that if you'll really get into your purpose, you'll never have a problem with money. Because when you're fulfilling your God-given destiny, you'll not only be excited and enthusiastic about it, but you'll excel in that area. And when you excel, promotion and increase will always come. And every one of you has hardwired into you a divine purpose from the Creator of the universe. It's a part of your nature. And until you start pursuing it and start really getting into it, you're not going to be fulfilled as you should be. I like to think of it like this. God made all these different kinds of animals, and He's given them each unique characteristics and unique things about their personality. For instance, the owl is nocturnal, likes to be out at night. And so God has given the owl eyes that can see as good at nighttime as we can see in the daytime. But if that owl decided he wanted to start sleeping at night and staying out during the day, and all of a sudden he started going against his God-given destiny, then he's going to have problems. He's going to have a hard time finding food. He's going to struggle all day, not enjoy his life. And it's all because he's not doing what he was wired to do. He got outside his purpose. When you're really in your purpose, things come naturally to you. You don't have to tell the owl to stay up at night. It's natural for it to stay up at night. And it's got the equipment for it. It's got the goods. God's given it the vision. Doesn't have to struggle to stay awake. God made it nocturnal. Well, in the same way, God has put certain things in every one of us. And if we can just get into our purpose and do what we're good at naturally, then life is not going to be a struggle. It's not going to be a headache. You're not going to get up dreading going to work. God, why do I have this job? No, make sure you're in your purpose. When you're really in your purpose, there'll be a joy on the inside. Deep down in here, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of fulfillment. And yes, we're going to have to work hard. Yes, there will be times that we struggle, but overall, when you're really in your purpose, you will be fulfilled and you will enjoy your life. I think about another type of animal, a retriever, a certain type of dog. It's natural for a retriever to retrieve. That's what's been hardwired into it. You can take a bunch of retrievers and put them in a fenced-off area, and all day long they'll just lay around the yard, lazy, unmotivated, no enthusiasm, just dragging through the day. But when that owner comes home and opens up the bed of his pickup truck, and they begin to realize they're about to go hunting, those dogs will come alive. They'll start barking, they'll start jumping, they'll run around the yard in excitement. I mean, it's a night and day difference. Why is that? It's what they were meant to do. God put that on the inside of them, so there's a natural excitement, a natural enthusiasm. They don't have to get themselves all worked up to be happy. They don't have to say, well, let me go listen to one of Pastor Joel's sermons. I just lost my joy today. No, when they know they're going hunting, they're excited about it. That's been hardwired into them by the Creator of the universe. And I really believe when we get into our purpose, and when we really start doing what we know we're called to do, there will be an enthusiasm and excitement that just comes naturally. We may not jump up and down every day, but down in here we're going to know that we know that we know, man, this is what I was called to do. This is my destiny. And every one of you has something that you're good at naturally. There is something you can do that's just no big deal to you. I was thinking about Cindy. Man, that girl can sing. You've heard her up here. She hits those long, high notes and just holds it forever. And it looks totally effortless to her. Doesn't even look like she's trying. I think, man, I can't even hit those notes in the shower. But why is that? It's because she's doing what she's good at naturally. But on the other hand, if you're doing something that's not natural, and it's always a struggle, and it's always giving you a headache, and even after you try and train and practice and push, you still can't seem to get it down, you've got to recognize that's not in your nature. That's not one of the areas God has gifted you in, and you need to just let it go. Find something that you're good at naturally. Of course, there are going to be times we have to push through and learn things that are hard, but in general, life should not be a constant struggle. When you're really in your purpose, there'll be an ease, and it'll come naturally. I know these two friends that went to Bible school together, and they were studying to become a pastor. And when they graduated, one young man started his own church, and he asked his friend to come along and help. And this other young man was very set on starting his own church, but since nothing had opened up, he decided that he would help him out for a little while. And this young man was a phenomenal musician. He could play the piano like you'd never heard, and he could write music, he could sing. He was just very gifted in that area. And so his friend, the pastor, put him in charge of the music ministry there at the church. And for several years, he excelled in that area. I mean, the church was known for its music. Things began to grow, and great things were happening. But this whole time, this young man kept telling himself, man, I got to get out there and start my church. I got to get out there and really get going. Well, his wife and the pastor, his friend, when they saw how much success he was having in the music ministry, they began to challenge him about what he was really called to do. I mean, his music was affecting so many people, but this young man wouldn't hear it. All he wanted to do was start his own church. To him, music was too easy. He had always done that. He'd always excelled in that area. He thought for sure he had to get out and try something more challenging, something new. But one day he began to realize everything he was trying to give people, he was giving them through his music. He began to feel a sense of destiny about what he was already doing. In fact, when he really thought about pastoring, there were many aspects that weren't appealing or exciting to him at all. It was just something that was stuck in his mind. And he finally decided he would just stay right where he was at and continue using his God-given gifts and talents that came naturally to him. But see, he almost missed his divine destiny because he was too close to it. It was just so normal for him. He'd been good at music all of his life. It's no big deal. But really, it wasn't normal. That was a gift that God had given him. And God has given every one of you certain things that you can do well. There are certain areas that you excel in. You know what they are. Don't take them for granted. It may be in sales or communication or encouraging people or in athletics or in marketing. Whatever it is, just because it comes natural to you, don't take it for granted. That's what God has hardwired into you. It's a part of your destiny. Make sure that you're using it to the full. I think about my brother-in-law, Kevin. He's the administrator here at the church. And there's nobody on this earth more detailed than Kevin. I mean, he is so organized, so efficient. He uses his time well. That is a gift that God has given him. It is not normal to be that organized. Kevin knows every detail of the construction down at the Compact Center. There is not a penny being spent that he doesn't know about it. And he can tell you not only why it's being spent, but he'll tell you 3 other ways that we tried to do it to save money. He is full of details. And if we ever go on vacation with his family, Kevin will send me an itinerary. He'll send me my tickets. He'll send me a weather report. He'll send me traffic instructions. He'll tell me if there's problems on the freeway. He'll send me rental car information. He reminds me to bring my driver's license. One time I got out there and forgot it, but Kevin will send me things in writing that I never even think about. He is gifted in being detail-oriented. And Kevin stays in his area of strength. He excels as our administrator. It's what he's good at naturally. And I'm sure Kevin could think in the back of his mind, well, if I'd get up there and preach, I'd really be making a difference. But no, if Kevin got up here and preached, we may not need the Compact Center. He's not here today. He can't preach, but you know what? I can't administrate. He's doing what he's good at naturally. He told me the other day, Joel, this is a dream come true. See, he loves coming to work every day. He's passionate about it. It's what he's good at. It's a part of his purpose. And as I said, every one of you has something that you are good at. Don't let the enemy tell you you've been left out. God has not left anybody out. You have talents, you have abilities, you have natural strengths, and you need to be aware of what they are and make sure that you're taking advantage of it. It says in Romans 12, verse 6, God has given each of us the ability to do certain things well. You can't do everything well, but you can do something well. Focus on your strengths and make sure that you're not missing out on your purpose because you're always trying something that's so complicated for you. Again, your purpose is going to have to do with something that comes naturally to you. And when you get into it, it's just going to feel right. It's just going to feel like it fits. I know I have this certain pair of tennis shoes that's broken in real good and molded to my feet. And when I put them on, they just feel like house shoes. Well, that's what it feels like when you really get into your purpose. It just feels right. You just think, man, God, I know this is why you put me here. I was thinking about my father. Daddy loved to go to India. That was one of his main passions. And 2 or 3 times a year, my wife Victoria and I would travel over there with him. And oftentimes, after we would land, we would travel 4 or 5 hours way back into one of the little villages. And of course, there weren't any hotels back there. There wasn't any kind of food that we could eat, and it was hot and dirty and uncomfortable. And I remember one time in particular, we stayed at this old, rundown government army barracks. It was nothing more than 4 concrete walls, no inside bathroom, no AC, no sheets on the bed, just a little cot. And about 50 yards away, there was what they used for the sewer. And so you can imagine how it smelled. At night, there were bugs and all kinds of insects running around. And Victoria and I, we never complained about it, but honestly, we could not wait until we got out of there. We were counting the days until those meetings were over. But it's interesting about my father, he no more noticed any of that. You'd have thought Daddy was staying in a fancy hotel. He didn't smell the smells. He didn't feel the heat. He didn't see the bugs. He was as happy as he could be. In fact, I've never seen my father so happy as when he was in the villages of India. He told me one time, Joel, if I didn't know I was supposed to pastor Lakewood, I'd live right here. Well, why was that? Why wasn't he uncomfortable? It's because it was a part of his purpose. He was passionate about it. Just like God had hardwired TV into me, God had hardwired that into him. It's funny, one time when we were staying there at those army barracks, early one morning, my father and I were out on the front lawn eating breakfast. And I'd been married to Victoria maybe about a year or two, and here Victoria is so beautiful and comes from a well-to-do family, and I take her to about one of the roughest places on the earth. But she never said anything about it. But Daddy and I were out there by ourselves eating breakfast early one morning. All of a sudden, we hear Victoria start screaming to the top of her lungs. And man, I'd never heard anything like that before. And so we threw our breakfast down and ran toward the building. And here she comes running down the stairs, shaking her blonde hair just as fast as she possibly could. We were thinking, what in the world is going on? And about that time, we saw this lizard about this long, about that fat, you know, like an iguana. And all I could think is, girl, just keep on shaking. Because I thought, you're looking at the wrong person if you want me to get... Finally, she shook him out of her hair, and I thought I was going to have to resuscitate her. Thank God we are still married even today. But you know, seriously, none of those uncomfortable conditions ever bothered my dad. Why was it? That was a part of his purpose. He was passionate about it. And it says in Proverbs 18:16 that your gift will make room for you. And I'm convinced if you'll get into your real purpose, no matter where you are, you won't have any problem being happy. You won't have any problem finding work, finding friends, finding opportunity. In fact, if you'll focus on your strengths and do what you're gifted to do well, you'll have to turn down opportunities. But some of you today, you are not happy, you're not fulfilled because you're not in your purpose. You are doing things that you're not hardwired to do. You've got to make sure that you're fulfilling the dreams that God has placed in your heart. Are you tapping into the potential that's on the inside? Have you discovered what you do best, what comes naturally, and are you excelling in that area? If you're called to be a stay-at-home mom and raise your children, do it to the best of your ability. Don't feel pressured to get into some career just because your friends are doing it. Recognize that's a part of your purpose and do it well. If you're gifted in the area of sales, don't sit behind a desk all day long by yourself. Get into the area of your gifting and do it to the best of your ability. If you're going to fulfill your purpose, you've got to do what you're hardwired to do. You've got to make sure you stay in the area that you're passionate about. I read about this golfer that had a dream to become a professional. He was very talented in golf. It was a natural gift that God had given him, and he had excelled all through high school and all through college. But when he got up to the professional level and he saw how tough the competition was, he soon realized he couldn't make a living at being a professional golfer. And he had to come to grips with the fact that that dream was just not going to come to pass. But instead of giving up on his passion and just going into another field, he decided to come at it from another angle. And he started following the pros around on the tours, tracking every shot that they hit, writing down what club they used and what distance it was from and how accurate it was. And before long, he had all this incredible data. He began to study it and analyze it, and he found out all these interesting things about each player. And after a while, the pros began noticing him on the tours, and they inquired as to who he was. And when they found out he had done all this research and he knew so much about each one of them, they started hiring him as a consultant. And he would tell them when they were using the wrong club and how they could improve their game. Eventually, he wrote 3 very popular books sharing this information. What's my point? This man stayed in the area of his passion. Just because his dream didn't work out the way he thought it would, he didn't just give up on it and get outside of his natural gifts and talents. He found a way to make his passion work for him. And we've got to stay open and recognize just because you have a passion in your heart doesn't necessarily mean it's going to qualify you for your exact dream the way you're thinking about it. Stay open, and just because one thing doesn't work out, you've got to be willing to go at it from another avenue. Friends, you got a gift on the inside of you. There's a treasure down in you, but you got to work with God and do your best to get it out. One of my favorite movies is Chariots of Fire. And in this film, the lead character is a very gifted runner. He's called to be a missionary over in China, but his dream is to compete in the Olympics. And he knows that God has given him this gift of running. And he explains how when he runs, he feels like he's dedicating himself to God. He said, when I run, I feel God's presence. He was saying, when I do what I know I'm called to do, when I'm using my gifts and talents, when I'm pursuing my destiny, I can feel God smiling down on me. One of my favorite lines in the film, he said, to win is to honor God. And if we could just live by that same philosophy, in other words, to excel, to pursue our purpose, to be the best that we can possibly be, is to honor God. If you're called to be a businessman, excel at it and you honor God. You're called to teach children, excel in that area and you honor God. Whatever you are called to do, if you'll do it to the best of your ability, excelling in it, realize you are honoring God. But some of you today, you have not stepped into your divine destiny. You're doing things that you don't have any passion about, no enthusiasm. You're just going to work and trying to make a living. And I realize we can't just snap our fingers and change careers, but at least I want to stir you up today to examine your life and be aware of how you're spending your time. Are you pursuing your passions? Are you doing what you're good at naturally? If not, why don't you make some changes? Time is short. I would encourage you, find the one thing that you're passionate about and start giving yourself to it. And God will lead you one step at a time. I mentioned earlier how God put the desire in me for television production as a young man. I followed that passion. Then when my father went to be with the Lord, I had the desire to step up and pastor the church, and I followed that passion. And I can honestly say today that I believe I've stepped into my God-given destiny. I know this is what I was called for. This is why God put me here. And that's my desire for every one of you, that when you would follow after God's perfect will, knowing your calling, staying in your purpose, and then one day you could look back Or maybe you could even say it today, this is why God put me here. I know this is the whole reason I was born. That's when you're living life to the full, you're giving to the full, you're loving to the full, you're being all God created you to be. And then when it comes your time to go, you can say with the Apostle Paul, I have finished my course. I've spent all the talents and the potential God has given me. I've used all my gifts to the very full. Friends, let me challenge you again. Don't die with buried treasure. Find your purpose. Pursue it. Give it everything you got. If you do that, God will lead you and guide you. He'll pour out His favor and blessings, and you too will fulfill your divine destiny. Amen. If you receive it, can you give the Lord a shout of praise today? It's easy to have a good attitude and pursue our dreams as long as everything is going our way. That doesn't take a lot of faith. But what about the difficult times when a relationship doesn't work out? We get a bad health report. A friend does us wrong. It's easy to lose our passion when we're hurt. The disappointment, the business that didn't make it, the breakup, that was painful. Many people are sitting on the sidelines of life because they're injured. Now they're nursing their wounds, not moving forward because of what they've been through. No, you may have a reason to feel sorry for yourself, but you don't have a right. God promised He will give you beauty for those ashes. He said He would pay you back double for the wrongs. But you have to do your part, and if you're going to see the beauty, if you're going to see the double, shake off the self-pity. You got to shake off the discouragement and get back in the game. Every person has injuries. We all have wounds, but you can't let a loss, a health issue, a divorce be an excuse to sit on the sidelines. Sometimes in life, you have to play in pain. I was watching the football game a while back, and one of the players had a broken hand and bruised ribs. He's a big offensive lineman. He wasn't expected to play. The trainers wanted him to sit out, but he wasn't about to miss the game. Had a big cast on his arm. He's wearing a special vest to protect his ribs. He's all bandaged up. He looked like a mummy. And a reporter asked him how he felt. He said, it's a little painful, but I'd rather be in the game in pain than sitting on the sidelines watching. And if you're going to become all God's created you to be, you can't let that injury, that hurt, that disappointment cause you to sit on the sidelines. Do like this player. Bandage up what's hurting. Forgive the person that did you wrong. Let go of what didn't work out and get back in the game. I saw a lady in our lobbies last week that I haven't seen in a long, long time. She's an older woman, very faithful, attends our services regularly. And I said in passing, hey, I haven't seen you lately. Where have you been? She said, Joel, I had to have an emergency surgery. Been in the hospital for 3 months. I said, wow, so glad to have you back. How are you doing? For as long as I live, I will never forget her words. She said, I'm hurting, but I'm here. And that's the kind of people God rewards, faithful people, people that are determined, people that get knocked down but don't stay down, they get back up again. You don't let the hurt, the pain, the bad break cause you to get bitter, to lose your passion, to start blaming God. No, like this lady, you stay in the game. No matter what life deals our way, our attitude should be, I'm hurting, but I'm still here. Friend did me wrong, but I'm still here. Business is slow, but I'm still here. Didn't feel like coming, but I'm still here. You got to have a made-up mind you're going to stay in the game. You're not going to be faithful as long as you feel perfectly well, as long as everybody treats you right, as long as it's sunny and cool outside. No, where are the people like this lady that have a made-up mind? I'm hurting, but I'm still coming. Boss did me wrong, but I'm still getting to work on time, being my best. My child won't speak to me. It's breaking my heart. I'm in pain, but I'm still singing in the choir. I'm still ushering each week. I'm still being good to a friend that's in need. I've still got a smile. I'm still giving God praise. Listen, anybody can sit on the sidelines. Anybody can find an excuse to be sour, to drop out, to give up on life. I'm asking you to stay in the game. And when you're hurting, when you're in pain, it's easy to become ingrown to where all you think about is my hurt, my disappointment, my bad break. All that's going to do is bring more discouragement, more self-pity, eventually even depression. One of the best things you can do when you're hurting is go out and help somebody else that's hurting. Get your mind off of your problems, off of your pain, and go help somebody else in need. When you help others in your time of need, that's a seed you're sowing that God can use to change your own situation. This is what my mother did in 1981 when she was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer, given a few weeks to live. She didn't feel well. She had a good reason to be discouraged. She had a good excuse to go home, go to bed, pull the curtains, and be depressed. She was injured. She could have sat on the sidelines. Nobody would have faulted her. But my mother understood this principle. She stayed in the game. She would drive across town to pray for a friend of hers that was sick. The truth is, she needed more prayer than that friend. But my mother was sowing a seed. She would come to church every weekend and pray for other people that were in need. She was injured, but she was still in the game. Sometimes in life, you got to play in pain. You don't feel like it. It's not easy. Every voice will tell you you're done. There's nothing good in your future. No, don't believe those lies. God sees your effort. And it's one thing to do the right thing, make good decisions when everything's going our way. That's great. God rewards that. But when times are tough and nothing's going your way, you're hurting, you should be on the sidelines nursing your wound, but instead, you're still in the game. You're still getting to work on time. You're still being good to someone. You're still expecting God to turn it around. That gets God's attention in a new way. God has a greater reward for people who are faithful in the tough times. Years ago, my sister Lisa went through an unwanted divorce. She was in her early 20s and she was so devastated. It was an unfair situation. And for weeks, she was so depressed that she wouldn't leave the house. Practically wouldn't even come out of her room. In the morning, she couldn't wait for it to get dark. At nighttime, she couldn't wait for the morning. She wasn't living, just existing. One day she called my father and she was crying. She said, "Daddy, I think I'm having a nervous breakdown." She was in so much pain, she was overwhelmed. And we as a family, of course, we tried to cheer her up. We tried to encourage her, but it's like we couldn't get her out of that deep hole of depression. A minister friend of ours was speaking at the church at that time. His name is T.L. Osborne. He got on the phone, said, "Lisa, nobody can bring you out of this except you. You know I love you, Lisa, but you got to quit feeling sorry for yourself. Quit nursing your wounds. Quit thinking about your problem. Get out of the house and move forward with your life." At first, Lisa was defensive, almost offended, thinking, "You don't know the pain that I'm feeling. You don't know what I'm going through. This has ruined my life." Then he made this statement: "If you'll move forward, God will take your scars and turn them into stars for His glory." When she heard that, something ignited on the inside. It's like a stronghold was broken in her mind. Instead of sitting at home feeling sorry for herself, she went up to the church and started a class every week for people who were believing for their marriages to be restored. She reached out to other people that were hurting. She was injured, but she got back in the game. By her action, she was saying, "I'm hurting, but I'm still here. I'm disappointed, but I'm still here. They did me wrong, but I'm still here." Lisa could still be bitter, with a chip on her shoulder, blaming God, but she made the decision to get back in the game. Today, more than 20 years later, she's happily married, great husband, 3 beautiful children. She saw what God promised. He took the scars and turned them into stars. He gave her beauty for those ashes. But it all happened when she made the decision to get back in the game. Isaiah put it this way: "Arise from the depression in which the circumstances have kept you, rise to a new life. Notice, if you want a new life, there's something you have to do. You can't sit back in self-pity. You can't wait till all your wounds heal and you feel 100%. You got to do like Lisa and arise from that discouragement. Shake off what didn't work out. Quit mourning over what you've lost. Quit dwelling on who hurt you and how unfair it was, and rise to a new life. When God sees you in the game, pain and all, bandages and all, when you show up with that attitude, I'm hurting, but I'm still here. I'm hurting, but I know God is still on the throne. I'm hurting, but I'm expecting God to turn it around. That's when the creator of the universe goes to work. That's when God will pay you back for the wrongs that have happened to you. And some of you are in a tough times. You're sitting on the sidelines. God is saying, arise and get back in the game. If a friend betrayed you, don't go through life lonely. Go out and find some new friends. The right people are in your future. If you lost your job, don't sit around complaining. Go out and find another job. When one door closes, God will always open up another door. If you're facing a health issue, fighting that sickness, don't give up on life and start planning your funeral. Arise from that discouragement. When God sees you do your part, He will do His part. He'll give you a new life. That means He'll restore your health, give you new opportunities, new relationships. He'll give you a new perspective. You will see, even though it's painful, it is not the end. Even though it was unfair, it is not over. There is still life after the sickness, life after the divorce, life after the bad break. A full life is still in front of you. Job experienced this. He went through all kinds of tough times. Everything that could go wrong did. He was tempted to sit on the sidelines of life. His wife told him, Job, just give up. It's never going to get any better. But in the midst of that pain, Job said, I know my Redeemer lives. He was saying, in effect, I'm hurting, but I'm still in the game. I'm hurting, but I know my God is still on the throne. A year later, when he came through that challenge, God not only brought him out, but God paid him back double for what he had lost. And the scripture says, after this, Job lived 140 years and saw his grandchildren down to 4 generations. Notice, after the trouble, after the loss, after the sickness, after the business went down, after the bottom fell out, his life was not over. He didn't end on a sour, defeated note. He went on to live a blessed, happy 140 years, enjoying his grandchildren, accomplishing his dreams, fulfilling his destiny. What am I saying? Your life is not over because you had a setback. God has an after this in your future. When we go through tough times, don't be surprised if the enemy doesn't whisper in your ear, you'll never be as happy as you used to be. You've seen your best days. This setback is the end of you. No, let that go in one ear and out the other. God is saying to you what He said to Job after the cancer, after the bad break, after the disappointment, there is still a full life. You have not danced your best dance. You have not laughed your best laugh. You have not dreamed your best dream. If you will stay in the game and not get bitter, God has an after this in your future. Like Job, He's not only going to bring you out, He's going to bring you out with double what you had before. You may have seen the football game last Sunday. One of the players' younger brothers was tragically killed in an accident the day before. This player practically raised his siblings. They were extremely close. You can imagine the pain and shock he must have been in. The coach told him to go back home and spend as much time as he needed with his family. But he said, no, coach, I'm going to play in the game tomorrow in memory of my brother. I know that's what he would want me to do. It's interesting, this player had one of the greatest games of his career. He caught an incredible touchdown pass, made other great plays. Some people would see it as a coincidence, just the adrenaline of the moment. but I see it as the hand of God. I believe God was saying, if you'll dare stay in the game, if you'll dare play with pain, then I'll breathe my favor on your life. When God sees you in the game, when at least in the natural, you should be on the sidelines nursing your wounds. Everybody would understand if you were bitter, you lost a loved one in an accident. We'd understand if you had a bad attitude, you're facing a serious illness, raising a special needs child, in the middle of a legal battle. Nobody would fault you for being discouraged. That's what most people expect. But when you defy the odds and say, hey, I'm hurting, but I'm still here. The medical report wasn't good, but I'm still giving God praise. The loan didn't go through, but I still have a smile. I didn't get that promotion, but I'm still volunteering in the nursery. When you play in pain, the most powerful force in the universe breathes in your direction. You may be in a difficult time. You could easily be discouraged, but God is saying, it's time to wipe away the tears. Wash your face, put on a new attitude, and get back in the game. You may not be able to do what you used to. You've got some aches, some limitations. That's all right. God is not necessarily concerned about your performance. He's looking at the fact that you're even in the game. You could have a chip on your shoulder. You could be sitting on the sidelines. Some of you just being here today, just flipping on the channel, that took an act of your faith. Every voice told you, don't go today. You're tired. You're disappointed. You had a setback. That's a waste of your time. You had all these excuses to sit on the sidelines, but you shook it off and came anyway. Let me assure you, God sees your effort. God knows what it took to be here, what it took to even turn the channel on. Nobody else knows the battles you had to fight to get here, the discouragement you had to overcome. They didn't see all the opportunities you had to get sour and throw in the towel. Just the fact that you showed up, you're saying to God, you are still on the throne. You're saying to yourself, I'm in it for the long haul. And you're saying to the enemy, you're under my feet. There's nothing you can do to keep me from my destiny. Listen, the moment you walked in these doors, the moment you flipped on the channel, all the forces of darkness begin to tremble. Because when you honor God, especially in a tough time, when you could be complaining, but instead you're praising, that gives the enemy a nervous breakdown. He doesn't know what to do with people that just stay in the game. Friends, God sees your effort. He sees your sacrifice. When Jesus was here on this earth, He felt every pain, every emotion that we would ever feel. He knows what it's like to be lonely, to go through a loss, to be betrayed, to be discouraged, so much so that He sweat great drops of blood. He's been where we are. The scripture says He is touched with the feelings of our infirmities. When you hurt, God feels the pain. You're His most prized possession. You're His child. And when you arise in spite of the pain and get in the game, that's the seed God will use to take the scar and turn it into a star. I met a man in our lobby a while back, and I noticed that he was wearing a wristband from the hospital, and I asked him if everything was okay. He explained how he had surgery earlier in that week, a major surgery, and he was supposed to stay in the hospital through the weekend to recover. But he said, Doctor, I've got to go to church on Sunday. I'm an usher. They'll be expecting me. The doctor said, no way, sir. I'm not even thinking about letting you out of the hospital. You're going to stay right here and recover. The man said, Doctor, you don't understand. I have to be at church. I never miss a Sunday. The doctor looked at him, said, let me ask you, do you go to Lakewood? He said, yes, sir, I do. The doctor said, Lakewood people are the most dedicated, faithful, happiest people I've ever seen. The doctor said, I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm going to give you a 3-hour pass to go to church on Sunday morning, and then you get right back in here and get in that bed to recover. He showed up. He was hurting, but he was here. He told me before the service, Joel, don't go long. I'll get in trouble. There's a young man that attends here all the time. He always has a smile, seems as happy as can be. What I didn't realize is he has been on dialysis for 12 years, much younger than I am. I took my father to dialysis the last 3 months of his life. I know a little bit about that. It's not always easy. It can be a burden. This young man always wore long sleeve shirts. One Sunday he came up for prayer. I met him at the altar for the first time. Said, hey, I see you out there in the audience all the time. It's good to finally meet you. Said, yeah, Joel, I never miss a service. I love coming. He rolled up his sleeve. His whole arm was as red as a tomato. It looked like somebody had taken an ice pick and poked at it for 3 hours straight. Never seen anything like that before. I couldn't help but think about all the times I had seen him out in the audience with his arms up in the air in worship. Looked like he didn't have a problem in the world. Looked as happy as could be. What I didn't realize was under that sleeve, he was injured. He was here, but he was hurting. He was playing in pain. And it's one thing to go through a difficulty and everybody knows about it. You're worried, discouraged. You got your friends, your family members praying. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all human. We all have emotions. We handle things in different ways. But what really gets God's attention is when you're in a tough time, you're hurting, you're in pain, but like this young man, you're so stable, you're so consistent, you're so at peace, nobody knows anything about it. You show up to church each week with a smile. You go to work with a good attitude. You're kind, friendly, compassionate. The whole time you're fighting a battle that nobody knows anything about. Let me tell you, that gets God's attention in a great, great way. About 3 months ago, he came back to the altar. There was a young man next to him. He said, Joel, my friend is going to donate me one of his kidneys. We're going to have the transplant on Tuesday. Long story short, the procedure went great. The new kidney responded perfectly. Today, he's not on dialysis anymore. He doesn't have to wear long sleeve shirts anymore. He's healthy, free from that pain. Here's my point. 12 years after the dialysis, after the struggle, after the pain, there was still a bright future in front of him. Because he stayed in the game like Job, he came into his after this. God will do the same thing for you. There's a young lady in the scripture that went through a time of great pain. Her name was Ruth. Her husband was killed in a battle. In a moment, her life forever changed. Ruth could have easily gotten off into self-pity, discouragement. God, life is just not fair. But Ruth stayed in the game. Her mother-in-law, Naomi, it was her son that was killed. She was a widow already. She was about to move back to her hometown. She said, Ruth, you're a young woman. I'm an old lady. You've got a full life in front of you. Don't worry about me. Just go off and do your own thing. Ruth said, no, Naomi, I'm not going to leave you by yourself, especially when you're hurting. I'm going to go with you and take care of you. Even though Ruth was hurting, even though she was in pain, she reached out to somebody else that was hurting. Month after month, Ruth just kept taking care of Naomi, getting the food, serving her dinner, being her friend. One day, Ruth was out in the field gathering up wheat for the dinner, and she met this man named Boaz. He was the owner of all the fields, the wealthiest man in that area. Long story short, they fell in love and got married, and God blessed them with a baby boy. They named him Obed. Obed had a son named Jesse. Jesse had a son named David. David, of course, went on to be the king of Israel, one of the greatest men that's ever lived. Ruth could have sat on the sidelines the rest of her life after that loss, but she understood this principle. She played in pain. She was injured, but she kept doing the right thing. And God had an after this for Ruth. After the loss, after the pain, God said, I'll give you a great-great-grandson that will change the world. And you may be in pain today. You suffered a loss, been through a disappointment. My message is that is not the end. God still has a plan. Now, don't sit around nursing the wound. Don't let bitterness and discouragement set the tone for your life. God is saying, arise, wipe away the tears, and get back in the game. You may be injured, but dare to do like Ruth and play in pain. Have the attitude, I'm hurting, but I'm still here. I'm disappointed, but I've still got a smile. They did me wrong, but I'm still giving God praise. Friends, if you will stay in the game, God will always have an after this for you. After the loss, you'll meet the right person. After the layoff, you'll get a better job. After the sickness, you'll come out stronger. After the disappointment, you'll still live a blessed, full, happy life. Just like my mother, just like the young man with the kidney, just like Ruth, like Job, I believe and declare, in spite of the pain, in spite of the adversity, because you're still in the game, God's going to make the rest of your life the best of your life. You will still fulfill your destiny and become everything that God has created you to be, in Jesus' name. If you receive it, can you say amen today?